Hello and welcome back to Coast FC, the Canadian soccer podcast focusing on all things CPL, Canadian Championship, and more. My name is Felipe Ojo.
And I'm Mike Rice.
And we are back to look over match day 21 of the CPL. We're quickly approaching the end of the season. I was just talking with Mike about how time flies. Mike, can you believe that we're already 21 match days into the season?
The season can finally drink in the US.
Yeah, exactly. The season can finally drink. That's a funny way of looking at it, Mike. Very, very British of you. But yes, the 21st match day of the CPL, and it was a bit of a special one in this case because it was filled with set piece goals. Out of the 10 goals that were scored this weekend, 6 of them came from a set piece, and we're going to talk about them throughout the games. A couple of them worldies, Olympicos. A couple of them really well, cleverly done. A couple of them just straight traditional, towards the front post, towards the back post. All different shapes and sizes of set piece goals, and we're going to go through all of them. But before we dive into them, and the rest of the details from all of the games, remember to follow us on all of our socials at Coast to Coast FC, as well as finding us on YouTube under the same name to see the visual side of the podcast. But let's start with the first match of the weekend. We're going to go in chronological once more, and it is Forge FC against Pacific FC. Now, this matchup historically has been a rather tough one, and many goals between these two sides, and it looked like it might be the case once again going into this one, much because of the form of Pacific and the fact that they're allergic to goals right now. And Forge because of obviously the rotation that they were forced to do, having had the match against Montreal in the Canadian Championship just a Tuesday before the weekend. And there were some questions about the lineup itself. We saw Dominic Samuel come in. We saw Nana Poma starting, Jordan Hamilton, Chouanier kept his place, Noah Jensen, Schiavone started as well, the hero from the match against Vancouver FC. So a lot of changes, and the biggest question was, will Forge be able to pull it off without the likes of Bekker or Borges or the suspended Badi Benga? The answer is yes, and it was thanks to one man called Noah Jensen, who was given the captaincy, and it seemed to have spurred him on to a man of the match performance because he filled that Kyle Bekker slot amazingly, perfectly, you might even say. From the first minute, you could just see that he was almost like in an extra gear compared to everyone. He was all over the place. He was spraying the ball from side to side, and it almost felt like if you blinked or if you squinted maybe a little, you could maybe mistake him for Kyle Bekker in the way that he played. And of course, it helps that when you score 2 long-range screamers, there's only one man that you can compare yourself to. But what a performance from
really good. Yeah, really good. I mean, Forge fans will probably be shuddering at the thought of Kyle Bekker retiring at some point in the future. But no, Jensen really did fill the boots perfectly. Really, I mean, we talk about the set piece goals. We kick off for the first game. We didn't have any, but my word, were those goals, were those finishes good. Gazdov had another really good game, I thought, but couldn't get near those. That was so well hit from Noah Jensen, and really, really, like you say, just like took that captain's armband and it just lifted the confidence of him, and he's gone out and played one of his best games that I can. I mean, it's easy to say best game this season, definitely, but one of the best games I've seen him play. It was absolutely fantastic. Really did, really composed in the middle. Really did a lot of good work in there, which was just capped off by those incredible finishes. And yeah, it was. I mean, Forge don't need anything more. Like, those fans have had a lot to cheer about, but here's another one, isn't it?
Yeah. And you look at the quality of player that he is. He's only 25, so you could see him, like, the fact that he has learned a lot from Kyle Bekker. He's talked about it in interviews before, that he's sort of like a role model that he kind of looks up to. he seems like the natural successor that when Kyle Bekker does finally hang up his boots, probably will retire as the best player the CPL has seen in its history. You have a
That's a
player like Noah
podcast
Jensen.
coming up, isn't there? We'll schedule that in.
That's true. That's true. He'll make a quick appearance on this podcast immediately afterwards. But yeah, Noah Jensen, will have big boots to step into. But if he can, pull out performances like he did today, as the heir apparent to that Bekker role, and maybe even to the captaincy, I think that Forge will be in very good hands. It was just composed. It was mature. It was like it. We can make jokes and all, but it very much felt like Kyle Bekker wasn't really missing from the team. He did everything that
No.
Bekker did, and did it well. And not to say that you can do that week in and week out. It's very difficult to be at that level of quality as consistently as Bekker is, but to have a player that is capable of that is massive for Forge, especially as time goes on. You're going to see a lot of these players that have stuck around with Forge since year one start to retire or start to find pastures new, or sort of be let go, because time doesn't wait for anybody, and you got to move on to something new. And I feel like with Noah Jensen, he kind of is the first foot into what will eventually be the new era at Forge FC, and so I was super happy to see him have such a tidy performance in midfield in this one.
Yeah, it was really good. The issue we have, and I'm moving us on to Pacific, if that's okay, because it does a lot of these. His first goal was just calamitous defending from Pacific at times, and his second, and that's not to take away the finish at all, but the fact that he got the chance to take that shot was just all over the place. And for a team that were playing basically 5 central midfielders, 4 central midfielders and 2 central forwards, the fact that Forge could break down those 2 wings and still Noah Jensen can pick up the ball in the middle, in the middle third, and get space to get these shots away, was just it was just really terrible from on Pacific's side. They did well throughout periods of this, and they did get forward quite well at times. But looking at them, we've praised them for their defensive work this year, which has helped them get basically to where they are, which is second bottom in the league. But the fact that they are leaving their fullbacks to deal with the entire width of the pitch, Forge were able to double up on sides and then cut inside, and there's space. And Noah Jensen took complete advantage of those opportunities. But there's really a problem with how Pacific are dealing with this, because like I say, second bottom of the league, they can't score goals. Their defense has been what's kept them in it. And now even their teams are finding space in front of their defense.
Yeah. And it's super frustrating because, like you mentioned, they were so centrally focused. You look at the formation and how it actually played. It looked like a sword almost with the hilt. That's the safer work comparison that I'm making in this one. It looked like a sword. And even still, like you mentioned, there's so much space for Noah Jensen to play around. And the first goal, calamitous is a perfect word, because how Devi Chouanier was still able to keep that ball under possession, surrounded by 3 Pacific players, is just confounding. Honestly, it was ridiculous, the fact that they could not clear their lines, and then it fell to Noah Jensen. And spectacular goal, but when you can't score goals, you need your defense to be able to be good, and that's what Pacific have been pretty reliant on, as you mentioned, throughout the season. But now they're making mistakes as well, and it's now costing them even more points. And you look at their records; they have only 1 win in 9. They've lost 4 games in a row for the first time in their history. I think it's pretty uncontroversial to say that officially Pacific, if you didn't believe before, officially Pacific are in a rut right now, and their playoff hopes are dwindling, and very much so.
They're gone. Surely surely they don't have them anymore.
Yeah, especially
as
when you
much
look
as
at,
I'd like to support like AE, like all of the teams outside the playoffs, like turning us around and making this exciting. I just can't see it. Like,
no. It was a little bit better in terms of the attack, at least with Moses Dyer. I found sort of up top. I found that he at least was a little bit more of a mobile focal point. He kind of worked a little harder than we've seen, O'Hay or Rian Moore work. He kind of fought a little bit more. He had a little bit more determination than them, and he found himself in a couple of decent opportunities. He had, a header that he could have technically scored from. He had obviously the offside goal as well if he would have timed his run better. So I think he is a good option for them that will certainly boost them. But I think it's been close to like 600 minutes since they've scored a goal, which is, again, a ridiculous record to hold. And for me, it's like you look at James Merriman. You look at what the performance that the Pacific had against the Whitecaps, and sure, you can say that the Whitecaps deserved to win, and it was relatively comfortable. But I thought Pacific did a lot of good things as well, and showed that they can be a tough opponent even to the likes of an MLS club. But it's the lack of consistency in those performances, the lack of consistency in particular players that are really, I think, plaguing this team right now. And I think it's lazy just say, oh, they're not scoring goals. It runs much deeper than that now. The issues that they have is not just the fact that they're not scoring goals. That's a symptom of a much grander problem that they're having right now. And obviously, playing against Forge, it was always going to be tough to get a result. But I think, with a team so heavily rotated, it was probably going to be your best chance to get something from Forge, especially away from home. But the fact that they kind of really didn't, beyond the couple of half chances that they had, made it all the more disappointing. And I don't know. I genuinely don't know what can turn this specific side around to be able to try to make at least a fight for the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, we've seen obviously like Vancouver last year starting out, and then big rotation halfway through the season to see some improvements. Valour, big changes, further changes this year, and they're performing a little bit better. It's going to happen again at Pacific, like if they can afford it, because we spoke about them last season at the beginning of the year. At like this squad's fantastic, but it's stacked. How are you going to deal with the rotation? Now they don't, now players have gone and moved on or underperformed. They don't have the players anymore. So next season is going to be another huge rotation. Like if they can organize it, because they haven't got wide players. They don't seem. Turkavanu doesn't seem to get much opportunities. I'm not sure if that's through fitness or through choice, but he's playing with all their midfielders are very centrally operated. There aren't many creative players on the pitch. If they can get Moses Dyer playing forward, maybe more, then you need to get players around him. They don't have those players around him. Nigel Reed's not getting minutes really, and when he is getting minutes, he's not even coming up on the highlight reels. Like you go and watch a 6-minute reel of every week of Pacific games, you're not seeing him. There's a big issue here.
No, it's like I mentioned, the problems are run deep, and it feels like playoffs are really beyond them now, and it's focusing on the summer and trying to learn from 2 tough years, because it's not even just this year as an anomaly. Last year it was the same thing. They had a major fall off halfway through the season. The only issue with Pacific this year is that the fall off happened way earlier in the season. Basically, as soon as Ali and Dom got injured, that's when the wheels started falling off. So they really need to learn from these past 2 seasons and make some seismic changes at the club because they have high standards. They want to replicate 2021. And last year they came sort of close. This year they've come nowhere close.
No,
After the first five weeks, and it's sad to see because James Merriman, I think, is still a fantastic coach, and I really like Pacific what they stand for.
Like you say, I would really be really keen to see him succeed, but he's got to do something drastic, and he's got to really work hard looking into next season, because no matter what they do at the moment, this season's gone. I can't see it changing enough. So it's going to be a lot of work is going to go into the future.
Yeah, and they need to, because in this match, Kalongo did well. He made 5 saves. So Pacific were sort of at the door, and like you said, there was periods where they got better, but it's not enough right now.
But it was like a sliding shot from Toussaint. As he's they're on the floor too much now. They're just literally throwing their bodies at stuff because they've lost composure forward and back. But a lot of the chances were from range.
Exactly.
Baou's got a good shot, strike away, I think, just before half time, was it, if I remember right?
Yeah, and the weird part is Baous has been one of the most attacking threats they've had, and he's a central midfielder. He's already impressed me more in front of goal without scoring than Dario Zanata has.
Yeah, that's it.
Says a lot about them. But we could easily talk for ages about all the issues at Pacific.
We've done this every week, haven't we?
Yeah, honestly. But one thing that we do need, I want to kind of bring attention to, is Forge, because they played well. Don't get me wrong. I think it was relatively comfortable. But the one thing that you can sort of take away from it, maybe a little bit of a negative, is the fact that Forge's strikers, since Poku left, have not stepped up to the plate. No. And Forge have been sort of needing to be relying on others to step up. And when they don't, because they're not, natural goal scorers, Betty Banga's a fantastic player.
Fun to watch, but
he's brilliant to watch, and he can create chances. He can pull rabbits out of a hat, but he's not a natural goal scorer. Same thing goes with David Chouanier. Same thing goes with Tristan Borges and Kyle Bekker. They can pop up with some banger goals, but they're not doing it week to week, as Poku was doing for them before. Yeah. And I think, we don't have time to talk about the entirety of the Montreal match. But if they would have had a Poku in that game instead of Jordan Hamilton, and maybe they could have gotten that away goal that they so desperately needed, and it would have been a different match, and maybe Forge could have gone to the final instead of TFC. And I think this is an issue that maybe isn't the biggest problem now, because they're still playing well, but it could maybe bite them in the ass later down the line. And obviously, Forge is a machine in the playoffs, and the form goes completely out the window with them as soon as it hits playoff time. But this might be something that troubles them, is the fact that their strikers aren't really stepping up. You look at Jordan Hamilton; he was disappointing in this match. Nana Mpoma, again, brilliant player, fun to watch. He missed a sitter in the match. It's just about, somebody needs to step up on a more consistent basis to be that threat. And if they can go on and win all the rest of their games, including the playoffs, by just sharing the load, then fantastic. Then I will gladly admit to being wrong about this. But I feel like Forge fans have been giving the taste of having Poku as we have an actual proper number 9 again after Ruben Spacius left. Not having it again, I think, is a little bit of a detriment to their play, and with Campbell and Hamilton not really stepping up, I think it could be something costly.
Yeah, definitely. It's because it's not that they're just not scoring; they're not involved as much as you would hope. If a striker's not scoring, then you look at what are they contributing around it, and it's not a huge amount. And like you say, the top of the league, things are going well at the moment, but as you go into the playoffs and you go into that run in, if other teams are building up a bit of steam and they're going at you, then and your strikers haven't scored and aren't contributing, then you're making it a little bit difficult for yourself. Like you say, it might not be anything that ever comes back to bite them, because most things go pretty well down there for Forge. But like it is one of those things that I think Bobby Smeliotis will be looking at, just getting a little bit frustrated with. And it is something they need to try and improve on. Once one goes in, you'd imagine someone might get a little bit of confidence back again. Maybe it's just something that happens here, but I struggle to remember. I mean, I haven't got the stats in front of me, but I'm not sure how many Hamilton and Campbell have got between them this season.
Yeah, that's true. Like, would you take out Kosciuszko's goals?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, looking at it now, Hamilton has 1 goal. And I don't think Campbell has a single goal in the season, at least in the regular season. So 1 goal between 2 strikers is not the record you want to have going into crunch time. But like you mentioned, it would be so Forge for one of them to get a goal like in the first game of playoffs or right before playoffs, and then go
exactly.
an insane goal scoring run right in time for the playoffs. It'd be so Forge. So I wouldn't be like, let's not hold our breaths. Let's be honest. I think something will happen with Forge. It'll be a more of a massive shock if it doesn't happen near playoff time. So we might just have to wait a couple of weeks for one of them to find form. But I think we've talked enough about this match here. Let's move on now to the second match between Cavalry and Valour. And here's where set pieces... well, comeback kings, of course. I guess there's 2 major talking points. But this is where set pieces come into play. This is where 4 out of 6 set pieces of the weekend came into. 4 goals in the match, all from set pieces. Literally, you could call this match set piece giveth, set piece taketh away. At least that's what Cavalry must have felt in this match, because they went 2 goals up after 2 elaborate, you could say, set piece drills. The first one, a very clever pass and play. Fraser gets the pass to the right, puts it in a dangerous area, a couple of bobbles, and Bradley Kemp is there to tap it in. The second one, goes to the edge of the box. Diego Gutierrez kind of side foot volleys it, hits off the post, hits off Viscosi, who can't catch a break right now. This poor guy. I feel like it's Chansopoulos 2.0 right now. Cannot catch a break, hits off him, goes into the back of the net. And two goals up in the second half. You would think Cavalry are in cruise control, but like you mentioned, what a comeback from Valour, because within, I think, like it was 4 minutes, they got a goal back in themselves. Honestly, I think
the first 3 goals were within about 10 minutes. I think Cavalry scored their 2 and Valour got their first within 10 minutes of play.
Exactly. No, I think the entirety of the goal scoring, Camden scored in the 56th and Binate scored in the 70th. So 14 minutes, we saw 4 goals. That's an incredible rate. If you missed that period, you missed the game. I'm sorry. You missed the game. But obviously gonna give the floor to you. What a comeback. What did you see from Valour in that match? You'll be able to come back from that, because I thought that was incredible and something that we're starting to now see from Valour.
Yeah, I mean, I think that first half, like going in at 0-0, I think Cavalry would have been quite happy, because I think Valour really did have a really good start. Getting Antonoglu back at left back was vital. Like they were attacking, they looked confident, and they were creating chances, and like they were doing really well. And they were looking like a dangerous side. And the thing with Valour is you always just worry about, well, if they do concede a goal, how are they going to deal with this? And then they concede 2 so quickly, and you think, this team's like surely they're just going to hold on and try and keep the score down. But O'Heen coming in like a rhino, like just the freedom of the box and just hammering that header, just straight into the back of the net to get them back, like with a foothold in the game, was just spark new life into them. And that's not something you've seen in Valour for like for so long. Like to be like you go 2-0 down to a side who have 1-5 on the bounce, and then to still have that sort of fight to still come back is really impressive from them. And it's something that I don't think. I mean, we joke around, and I'll give Valour all the credit I can possibly give them because I really want them to get a playoff spot, just to like finally make it. But I think Phil Dos Santos deserves a lot of credit, which we've knocked on him rightly when things have gone really badly at Valour, and he's had to take his blame for a lot of that. But this turnaround he's got, I mean, bringing especially like bringing Mla into the midfield, like he was just like one change has been such a huge amount alongside Aheen. And I think the additions he's made throughout the season, where he's identified how to help bring the best out of his players, knowing they're a slightly flawed team and they're very light in some areas. Antonoglu being suspended just destroyed them, for example. But Phil Dos Santos has done fantastic to get this team fighting and going and competing for a playoff spot again. Like he has got them working after a terrible start with his back three at the beginning of the season and holes just being open everywhere. And it seemed to be a trend of at the beginning of the year, CPL managers going, let's give this back three a go, and we'll see if just adding a central defender will make us. Oh no, there's more space everywhere. But he's made these changes, and I think it's about time we did give him a bit of credit for what he's doing with this team.
Yeah, because we should definitely be giving him his flowers. I mean, you look at. He just went back to basics, like I think we talked about a couple of weeks ago. He just went back to a 4-4-2, and like you mentioned, Mla has made a huge difference. Ohin has made a huge difference when Campbell is available. He's been super solid as well. The Resurgence has been like that spark that they've needed as well at times. And then obviously we praised Swibble in a couple episodes ago as well, and Hondal is starting to do at least a little bit more.
Moving a bit now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's moving a bit now. So yeah, I think that he's made the best out of a difficult situation. We talked about how basically it's a bad. What I don't know what was the word that you said? Like a band of miscreants or something like that.
Like, misfits, isn't it? Put together.
Oh, misfits, not miscreants. That's the one. And and now they've actually been able to actually have a bit of an identity and have a bit of a style of play, and have some resiliency to be able to bounce back from a 2-0 deficit like that so quickly against the most informed team in the league. And I think everyone was shocked by that,
away
especially
from home as well.
Cavalry, especially at Atco Field, such a difficult place to go and perform. And I think Cavalry players, Tommy Wilden Jr., the Foot Soldiers, everyone was taken by surprise by the level of that comeback. Because 2-0, you expected Cavalry to just kind of cruise for the rest of the match. But really, really great response from Valour. But let's talk about more of the set pieces, because that's a theme basically of this of this game, and potentially of the episode is that Cavalry benefited from set pieces with, like I mentioned, some really nice elaborate ones, but then must be so disappointed in how they conceded the 2 goals, because it wasn't elaborate set pieces. It was literally whip an in-swinger towards the near post, whip an in-swinger towards the far post. It was like basic set piece routines, like the generic default ones that they just give you on like Football Manager, just like just as basic as they come, and it worked. And like you mentioned, Ohin hammering home that one, and then Binate out jumping his marker as well to beat Carducci and level the affair. And I think Cavalry will be especially disappointed, because I would say the majority of their chances in these games came from set pieces. Cavalry, especially with Dan Klump. I think Dan Klump had a couple of glancing headers. It was just like set pieces were their bread and butter and have been for some time
Yeah.
as well. Tommy Willen Jr. loves a set piece. That man loves a set piece. But just, I don't know, they just switched off. It was so un-Cavalry like, especially in the form they're on. What did you make of, the shocking way they conceded those goals?
Yeah, I'm surprised. To kick it off Ohi making this late run and with such pace, it's a reminder. You can see the goal, you still got a lead. Right, okay, we need to sharpen up. This isn't Valour aren't going away. Let's sharpen up and we'll see this game out. But then, that ball to the back post, and I think it was Valling again, marking Binate, and I think he struggled to really get up to speed since joining Cavalry. I think he's had a few moments where he's sort of been caught out a few times. It hasn't quite gone right for him, and Binate just took advantage of him. Is he the right person to be there? You got to look at them around the rest of the team and go, who's actually marking? Binate is not a small guy. He's a big, powerful guy at the back post. Is Valling the right guy for that? There's questions that maybe I'd ask, but he was there, and I don't think he really did much to make it difficult for Binate at all. They you say they'll go out disappointed. I can only imagine Tommy Wilden Jr. was furious.
Yeah. And that's actually, we're going to talk a little bit more about Valour, but we will have a little audio visual clip in the middle of the episode on exactly those comments from Tommy Wilden Jr. But yeah, it was just all of the hard work that they did was completely undone. And like you mentioned, in 5-10 minutes, 60 minutes of good play, going and, limiting Valour to only a couple of chances. Alarcon hit the crossbar, obviously, and that could have been a completely different game had that gone in. But they went 2 goals up. They did the work, the dirty work, and they immediately let it go. I would be fuming as well if I was Tommy or any of the fans watching that. But for Valour, that was the perfect scenario. That was exactly what they wanted. And now with that draw, given that, spoilers, Vancouver lost against Ottawa, Valour are now only 5 points off Vancouver, and they have 7 more games to go. The big question is now, can they catch up to Vancouver? Because I think this match showed that they have great determination, and they can turn it into potentially some more results, as Mike pleads for the opportunity. I think they have it in them to give Vancouver a real fight for that last playoff place. Temi Antonoglu, like you mentioned, he makes it night and day for them. He was so good in this game. I really liked how him and Alarcon decided to invert in the game. I think they saw that Cavalry were doing well in defending the wide areas, and that's usually where Valour is dangerous, is in the wide areas, because Temi's service is fantastic. But they decided to invert, and that's where Alarcon, was able to drive through the middle and get that opportunity. I really enjoyed seeing that, and I like that.
Really good game.
Phil Dos Santos is adapting his play as well, and I think it breeds more confidence in the fact that Valour do have something about them and can go into the games with confidence. The biggest thing for me is that they need more alternatives. They need more players to step up, because if Temi's not there, where is the service coming from?
It's not there, is it?
I think I was looking at it. I think Sean Hundal had 11 touches on the ball, and you don't need a lot of touches to be a great striker. Just ask Erling Haaland.
Yeah, exactly.
But you need good service, which is something that he has that I feel like Hundal and Swivel don't really have when Temi Antonoglu isn't there.
No.
And Temi Antonoglu is their main creative piece. I guess the resurgence as well can sometimes.
He's got excellent feet. He's really good. Faria on the other side works hard. But yeah, when Antonoglu's not there, you lose that third of the if you make it thirds like horizontally, you lose a whole third without Antonoglu, don't you?
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that Phil Santos will need to ask of his team is for more players to step up in that creative sort of aspect of the game, because it can't all fall on Temi Antonoglu, because if he's ever suspended or God forbid injured, Valour the wheels will quickly fall off that train if they adapt even more for the coming games. But it's really exciting for the playoff race right now. And in general in the league, we got a title race, we have the final playoff place fight. There's so much drama going into the last match, and we'll see if Valour are able to claw back what seemed like a very improbable chance to sneak into the playoffs. I know, Mike, you will be
hopefully. I mean, they're a flawed side, but there's goals in their games, and they can score goals. They just will concede as well, so it's going to be exciting. I think the other teams, I'm sure Vancouver will be concerned about the teams catching them, because we'll go into some of the others, one of the others below as well later on in the final game. But it's going to be an exciting run-in.
Exactly, it is. And before we move on to the Vancouver Ottawa, as mentioned, we're gonna hear a little bit of a snippet of Tommy Wilton Jr. pretty calmly compared to what I think he must have been in the dressing room, discussing his dismay at the set piece goals conceded and his thoughts on how his team performed both in the attacking and the defending sets.
It was a roller coaster of emotions, wasn't it? So there's three ways to score in the game. You can play in positional play when you're playing against a block, and we're working on some patterns and created some good chances. You can score on an attack and transition, or you can score on an attack and set play. But so can the other team. And I think we were so good at carving them open with the opportunities we created that we didn't do the basics of the defending for our set play. So we're disappointed in that, but it's a great reminder as we get into the run-in that we've got to have all facets covered and stuff we've got to continue to work on the training ground.
Is maybe one of the biggest things that response after you guys score and score well?
Yeah, listen, once we scored, listen, we've got to defend better. That's the simple answer to that on the set plays, because we're very good at that. We're the best defensive team in the league. But it doesn't mean that we still can't have flaws in our defensive structure, and tonight we did. I don't think the second one is a corner. It's a foul on Brad Camden. I think it's a bad call, but we still have to deal with the problems that go against us.
So that was Tommy Wilton Jr. talking about set pieces and how set pieces can give and set pieces can take away. And in this match, the set pieces proved to be crucial as well in the game between Ottawa and Vancouver, because that was the biggest difference. Only one goal in this match, a very tight affair. Arguably shouldn't have been, but on the scoreline it was, and it was thanks to a second-minute Olimpico goal from Iliadis, one of the best named players in the CPL. He's up there with Kembo Kibato in my books. But yeah, he's loving life in the CPL, and he loves an Olimpico. He scored 2 now and 3 appearances, and he could have made it a hat trick of Olimpicos. He's doing it for fun. I would love to see if half of his training session just Cargogo said, "Okay, go practice your Olimpicos. Go practice. We'll do everything else. You just go practice your Olimpicos." And he's just there with like 100 balls, just curling it. Because what is, Olimpicos are rare. Unless you're in the CPL, Olimpico's are supposed to be rare. But what's even rarer is to see a near post Olimpico. That's almost unheard of, honestly, to the point where upon first glance when I was watching it, I thought it was a goal from Tier Walker at the near post.
Exactly, yeah.
But no, he missed the ball, and it just kind of bounced off Callum Irving, hit the post, and went in. Yeah. It was just a fantastic delivery from Iliadis, and I don't know if he meant to do that. I think he was aiming for
I
Theo
think
Walker.
he's just shooting. Like, it just seems like he's shooting. Just go for it. We'll bundle in. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing what he has to do is
Yeah.
put the ball into a dangerous area with enough whip that any little touch will put it, either into the goal or into, dangerous spaces.
Yeah.
And he's doing that to a T. And immediately afterwards, I think that the game kind of fell exactly into what Ottawa wanted, which was Ottawa have had issues defensively this season, as we have seen. But, Carlos Gonzalez loves to defend a lead. And I think in this particular instance, he was very smart to defend the lead, because if you look at the way that Vancouver play, as I've mentioned, they've struggled to really have an identity this season. But if you look at the way that they have scored, a lot of the times it's quickly, countering when exactly in transition, transitional goals, countering quickly, trying to hit on the break. That's where they score a lot of their goals. They didn't do all that well when the onus is on them to dictate the play. And you would think Ottawa, the home team with the stars they have, they'd want to dictate play. But no, Cargo was very clever in this game and said, all right, Vancouver, do your best shot, and basically defending with a 5-back. And Vancouver tried their best, but that's exactly what Ottawa wanted. And whenever Vancouver lost possession, Ottawa just hit on the break and hit on the break and hit on the break. And let's be honest, this could have easily been another 5-0 from Ottawa against Vancouver if it wasn't for poor finishing, a couple of posts, actually a few posts. And
three
I think it was 3 posts, 2 crossbars in the post,
Yeah.
and Callum Irving. So it could have very easily been an ugly game. Oh, and who can forget? Of course, a penalty.
A penalty miss, yeah. Well, I thought that's what you meant by Callum Irving. Sorry.
I always think about other things, but Callum Irving with the penalty, a fantastic save on Ollie Bassett, who honestly I'm thinking I don't think Ollie Bassett has the best record from
that was his second miss this season.
That was his I remember him missing one previously as well, though I can't recall exactly what game it was. But talking about the penalty itself, I don't think it was a penalty. I think
we're coming back to the Vasco Fry chat, aren't we?
Yeah. It's always him. He should wear the Balotelli shirt. Why always me? Because it feels like it's always him.
I don't think if it was another, like, honestly, that, like, because I'm not on Vasco Fry's side for any particular reason. I'm not a Vancouver FC fan, diehard fan. I'm not in the Fraser Valley fanatics. But how often would a ref look at that and think, and then make a decision? Like, Vasco Fry goes in, makes a tackle, someone falls down, penalty. Like, it is split second.
Not even barely a moment's hesitation. I think Vasco didn't even realize the whistle was blown until afterwards. He was like, he didn't even have time to complain about get up. That was a dive. Immediately the whistle blew, and he was like, "Huh? What?"
It just feels like every other player, the referee will look at it, have a little think, maybe glance over to his assistant, and then make a decision. But that, like, Vasco Fry goes in, it's pen, done. Happy with that.
And Sissoko, I think Josh Hurd would have been so proud looking at the way that Sissoko dived right there, because
that's a good one.
That was we know the Olympics just came and went, but that could have been Olympic quality dive there from Sissoko, in my opinion. But I think a little bit of karmic justice for Vancouver in that Ollie Bassett's missed against Callum Irving. Callum Irving has done quite well for himself against penalties, I think, historically in the league. And he proved once again why he's so important for this team and kept it within touching distance. But afterwards, that penalty, there was so many chances for Ottawa to score. so many chances that Ottawa should have scored that were just not being taken. You had Sissoko miss a 1-on-1. Actually, I wrote down an entire list of all of the chances that they made. Sissoko missed a 1-on-1. Rocco Romeo denied a goal with a goal line clearance that goes on Aparicio. Iliadis hit the crossbar twice trying to do Olympicos. Tabla on one of the follow-ups on the first one, I think it was the first one that he hit the post, just blazed it over the crossbar. Del Campo missed a 2-on-0 with Tabla, and it was I was starting to be like, this is going to turn into like Vancouver going to steal one at the end, sort of like how they did with Amon Salouf against Valour, and Ottawa are going to sit there with the egg on their faces because of missed opportunities. They're honestly, I thought they were lucky that didn't happen.
Yeah, was it Rommel had that chance that Ingham made that double save off? Like they barely had a chance. Like they had one shot on target. And you say like all those opportunities that Ottawa wasted again, they could have been all undone over one chance that a team gets.
Yeah, and it would have been on Carlos Gonzalez, and I don't know if he would have taken that all that well, because I always think about a quote from Pep Guardiola that says, all I can do is bring my players to the goal. After that, it's all on them. And I feel like he would have been probably sorely disappointed in his team's finishing ability, because you saw how Ruben Del Campo was at the beginning of the season. As soon as that 2-1-0, I'm like, you were putting that away. You're a striker. You're not passing that.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I knew he wasn't going to pass it to Baluto.
If he was in the form he was in the beginning of the season, I think he probably would have.
Yeah, he would have probably put it away.
They're chasing goals now. All of them look desperate for a goal, and it's just not. We make fun of Pacific for not being like composed in front of goal, but a lot of the time Ottawa are doing this. They're getting goals, but they're creating so much. It's just becoming glaringly obvious they're missing a lot through just poor decision making when they could make the right decision and easily give themselves a bit of a cushion.
And I think that's the biggest difference, is that like Pacific have 3 chances a game to score, and they don't score any. And while Ottawa have 10 chances to score, and they only score 1. That's, I think, the biggest thing is you can see a lot more misses from the side that creates a lot more chances and could be a lot higher up the table and well clear of some of their competitors had they been a little bit more clinical in the games in recent weeks. But still proves again that Ottawa are obviously still a force to be reckoned with. Puts them 2 points behind Forge on equal games played, and now they're starting to be in a little bit of good form again. 7 points out of the last available 9, and it looks like once more they're starting to put a little bit of a title race on for Forge. But they have to be wary that Cavalry are just 2 points behind, and York United just 4 points behind now. So it's nothing is assured in the league right now, and that's what makes it so exciting to watch. But let's talk about York United a bit, and let's be honest, let's talk about Halifax more, because this one was all Halifax in the fourth and final game. They won 2-1 on the night, but again, I think this could have been more for Halifax, because for, I'd say, 70 minutes, it was one-way traffic. And it was one-way traffic in favor of the home side. And I had to just, wipe my eyes, because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Halifax playing like Halifax once more. It was beautiful.
It was early 2023 again, wasn't it?
It was beautiful. I always shed a tear. I'm like, this is what I've always wanted from this Halifax side. I didn't know if I would be able to see it again. But it was amazing. It was spectacular. It was like, the thing is, it was literally just going back to how they were. We talked about going back to the basics with Valour for Halifax. It was going back to their roots. Yeah. Feels weird to say roots when it's been a season and a half.
Yeah, but the guys are roots.
It's the guys at roots, exactly, in this Halifax side. it just felt like guys are like Patrice tried a little bit too much to adapt at the beginning of the season. I mean, we've talked at length and other podcasts and fans have talked at length about this. And in recent weeks, he's gone back to the norm and he's let go of some people that maybe were not really helping all that much with the team. And he went back to kind of the players that he knows he can rely on, like Massimo Ferrin, who had a fantastic match, could have had a hat trick in the first half, instead only had one, but still was lighting it up with the attack. But it just felt like now Halifax are playing the way that they should be playing.
Yeah.
The question is, can they now salvage this season from it? Because this performance today was easily, I think for me, easily the best Halifax performance of the entire season.
Oh, it was so good to watch. It was really enjoyable to watch, wasn't it? And like, players just looked composed, and up until the poor old dynamic goal again. But before that, like everything seemed right. Like Ryan Telfer was doing well up front. He was linking the play quite well. He had a couple of chances which he sort of, snatched out a little bit, but he was linking up well. I thought Rampersad was incredible in the middle. Like I thought he really stood out as someone who just felt so comfortable on the ball. Like he just didn't believe he'd ever get tackled and was just moving around. He's like, I'll just carry on doing this. Everything will be fine. Like, don't worry. Like it was like a perfect calm head in the middle. And just, as a team, it just started to all link up again. And it just, I think we spoke about this about maybe a month and a half ago. Like, okay, they're starting to go back, but they're having to work. They've been playing in a completely different system. Now they're going back to the system. And you're sort of blowing out the cobwebs and getting back into that getting back into it being a rhythm rather than something you're trying to do. And in this game, it did feel like it was starting to become a rhythm again. And that it wasn't something they were really working hard at. It was just something that was clicking.
Yeah. And it felt like everyone was pulling their weight with it. Like it genuinely felt like we described it at the beginning of last season as like this free-flowing, fluid attack. And it felt like that again, and it was awesome to watch because I love watching that kind of football. But it's a tough one to actually execute because you need everyone to be on top of it, knowing where they have to be, knowing what the next action is, and being able to execute it. And not every team can do that. And we're finally seeing Halifax kind of get back into, I think, as you mentioned, that rhythm that they had that has been lost for so long. And, obviously part of it is because of the tactical choices. A lot of it was also with suspensions and with injuries and stuff like that. But I think, Rampersad coming back in, it was massive for Halifax. I remember people were questioning about, was the loss of Mo Omar and Callum Watson, bigger than initially realized for Halifax when they left. I think that when you have players like Rampersad, you need him to fill that hole a little bit like Mo Omar did. And I think this match showed that he can, and he can be his own player, but he can still kind of be that integral player that Mo Omar was for them last season. And I was just blown away by how well they played for 2/3 of the match, and it should have been more in the same way. Ryan Telfer had a good match. Scored at least one. He had a couple of opportunities that he should have done better at. I think Halifax still need a good out-and-out striker. Telfer, I don't know if he's necessarily that. He's good for the link-up, but I don't know if he's a proper finisher.
No.
But they seem to be at a premium right now. So I don't know how much I can say about that since it's not just Halifax.
No.
But overall, fantastic play, and it could not have come at a better time against, I think, a better opponent for Halifax, because they are sort of hurting a team that's hunting for the title and kind of falling back and giving themselves a little bit more chance to climb into those playoff places. But talking about York, we seem to be the bad luck curse for York, because as soon as we were praising Mora when we came back from our break, that's when it all started
Yeah.
going wrong for them.
Yeah, they've hit a tough spot, haven't they? It's his first sort of test now, isn't it? I think like you can't expect like any team to go through the season perfect. Like and Mora came in a little bit like a few games in, obviously, but there's going to be some bumps in the road as you go along. Like, and that's that when you play each other so often, that's something that he's going to have to get used to. Is the fact that okay, like this has worked for a while, but now we're playing these teams a second and third time. Like we need to see what we can do, make sort of minor tweaks here and there, and we'll see what we can do to try and get the better of them. And it does just seem like maybe tired legs and a little bit of a sort of getting used to the league for him, maybe. But yeah, they did have. I mean, they've got game changers in there, haven't they? I mean, I think we're quite keen to talk about Shola Jimmo because he's lightning, and the ball sticks to his feet, and he's got that low center of gravity, which is so much fun.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like his physicality. I mean, he's I can't believe it. He's 16.
Yeah,
right? He's 16. He is like he was born in 2008. Like let that sink in.
How old I was at that point.
Yeah, let's not do the math. Let's not do that. But he's 16, and the way that he's playing is just superb because you have that youthful energy that it's like when he's on the ball, like he's just such like he's an energizer buddy. He's just always running and moving, but like the way that he's like physically, like just this physical makeup of, like you mentioned, low center of gravity and everything, it just makes him so easy to just like change direction and burst one way and then burst the other. And he's a handful. He's genuinely just like you see him playing and it feels like Jesus Christ, how you can't stop him once he gets going. But he was the one bright spark.
Yeah.
That Jurgen had in that game. I think that he played really well after coming on and gave that spark, that energy that Benjamin Mora needed for his team, and obviously putting that cross for the own goal.
Startled dynamic. He sounds good.
Still don't understand what happened with Dan Nimick.
Dan Nimick is apparently having basically a cartoon character season, isn't he? Like anything he does is just thrown back with some random calamity this season. I don't know what's happened to him because for the majority of the time he's having a good season, but like just these little things just keep creeping in, and you just end up getting focused on it. Just like how, why?
I would love to be able to find out how many own goals.
Yeah, he's had a few this year.
Because he's had a few now, and it's again once.
And he's up for the Golden Boot race, isn't he? Like,
I guess man can't help but score. It doesn't matter what net, he just can't help but score. But yeah, I still don't understand what he was trying to do with that one. I guess it was a bit because there was a slight deflection of the cross, so I think he didn't have time to rearrange his body, but so he just kind of threw an appendage at it, and it just kind of bounced into his own net, and you can see how frustrated he was by it, and it's just like it's almost cartoonish how comedic
any young fans watching couldn't lip read, I guess.
yes. You shall not repeat what he said, but you can. It's not rocket science to deduce what he said after scoring that one.
They can laugh about it now, though.
yeah, they can laugh about it now. But aside from that, York, a little bit of concerning now. They're winless in 3 matches. This is, I think, now Mora's really his first major bump in his tenure with the team. And I mean, looking at the games, the last couple of games, it's not that they've played badly. Like I can't say it like, oh, they've had a poor performance. It just feels like they've run out of gas. They've kind of started to run out of steam. They're not playing as quickly with the same intensity as they were at the beginning with Mora. And I think Benjamin Mora is starting to realize that some of his players might not be as consistent as he would want them to be in the style of play that he wants them to be. And now he's starting to contend with tired legs and tired minds. And you can only, I know you would love to start and field the same 11 that have done so well for you at the beginning, but slowly, especially in this league, you kind of need to switch things up. And I feel like the lack of rotation, obviously there's rotation because of injuries and suspensions, but the lack of more significant rotation might be coming back to bite him a little bit now with these performances.
Yeah, and I think we're starting to find the players who have overperformed for the new manager and are reverting back to the mean. And he's identifying those players now. He's identifying those players who have come in and which ones are going to be suited and long-term additions, and those that will probably go back or move on. So yeah, there's a few bits that he'll look at, but I mean it's difficult to like we say, like any team's going to go through their ups and downs, and I think he's just got to have a look at the resources he's got available to him, how he can try and get players like, I mean, we had Austin Ricci playing. I'm a little bit harsh on Austin Ricci because but he's no Brian Wright, and Brian Wright's not scoring at the moment. So there's some work to do back, getting organised for that. As great as it is to start off really well, it's sort of when things start going badly, maybe it's overblown somewhat. Like, I guess part of you as a manager wants that incremental improvement, but this was bang, and then it's stayed up, and you're like, oh god, at some point it's going to come down, and it's going to be even more dramatic. So maybe this week we'll say maybe it's just a bit dramatic. Like there is this period that they'll have to work through, and we'll see them make these minor adjustments, and we'll see, because as soon as we say a team is really good or a team is really bad, they flip on us and they make us look silly.
It's the kind of thing, you've heard of the commentator's curse. This is the coast to coast curse. Wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I'd love to see also it's so difficult with the CPL to look at like underlying stats. But I would love to see if maybe at the beginning they were kind of outperforming in a lot of stats than what they should have been.
Yeah,
and and now it's sort of starting to become a little bit more leveled, as things tend to be in the law of averages. And now we're starting to see where maybe York really are. And we'll see now how things kind of develop now that Benjamin Mora is like, okay, now I'm starting to see some of the realities of this team. Now, how can I work within it to try to get the best out of a team that might be a little bit tired or might be a little bit, shot on confidence, and it's now time to dig deep for him and for the players, because they're not that far behind still in the title.
No, exactly.
6 points, and in this league, you win 3-4 matches and you're immediately in a new position. And with only 7 matches to go, that kind of has to happen soon for them. So he needs to figure it out for his team to have a chance at the regular season title. But I still think they're surefire for playoffs. I'd be very surprised if they kind of continue to tumble down.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that top 4 surely will be in there. Like, I don't want to predict at the moment in what order.
It seems pretty set. The top 4, but we'll see. Maybe in 3 weeks he'll be a completely different makeup. That's the beauty of the CPL. But just to wrap up on this match, talking about Halifax, and speaking of playoffs and the position, Halifax, what once seemed as something that was far gone, Now with this win over York United, at least seems like they cracked open the possibility, a glimmer of hope for a playoff charge, because now they're only 6 points behind Vancouver, who occupy the last spot, with the game in hand. So should they win their game in hand, they're now only 3 points behind. What was that?
I mean, yeah, and it's against Pacific, so we're probably counting it as 3 points already. Like, unfortunately, and that puts them above Valour, and we're saying Valour could quite well get in there because these bottom 4 teams. Halifax, Valour, and Vancouver going for that final playoff spot. I think when you look at the 3 teams, the one at the bottom is the one that you can actually think, okay, they could probably put a consistent run together. Valour and Vancouver, they could do it, but at the same time, they could lose 3 in a row. Like, the 2 teams are very hard to predict. They've got it in them to do well. They've got it in them to absolutely shoot themselves in the foot. Whereas it looks like Halifax are gaining momentum, which is going to make it really exciting. Again, like, we keep just saying the same thing. It's going to be exciting running, but those 3 teams, especially between them, the ways they can take games and create opportunities, as well as the ways they can throw things away, is it just could go backwards and forwards throughout. And yeah, it's gonna they're really in there, Halifax now. Like, they are. I mean, for me, they look like the most complete team going in fighting for that 5th spot.
Yeah, and I think if you look at also their run-in, they have a lot of favorable. Like, right now, they're in a favorable period because I think out of the including the last 2 matches, with the next 3 matches, so in that batch of 5 matches, 4 of them are at home.
Yeah,
and they haven't lost in the first 2 matches. This week they won, last week they drew, and they're facing Pacific away, which you could say is probably the easiest away day you could have right now
at the moment,
in terms of getting a result from. And then they host Forge, which is always going to be difficult, but then they host Pacific as well. And if you can make points there, let's say you could make 7 points there, win against Pacific twice and draw against Forge, then you're right up Vancouver, past Valour, and you're really looking at a really good chance. The biggest thing for me is in the last 4 games, they only host once, and they have 4 away days. 1 at Valour, which will be crucial. 1 at Ottawa and 1 at Cavalry. And I think there's where it's going to be really testy for Halifax. I think they need to not only obviously make good on their home form right now that they have 2 more matches out of this kind of run of 5, but get some really crucial points away from home towards the end of the season, because I feel like that's what could outdo them right now. And I think Valour has quite a few home games because of the backlog of home games at the beginning. So Valour have a really good advantage. Vancouver has a lot of away games.
They host Ottawa. Valour, they go to York. They host Halifax. They host Pacific. They host Forge. So I mean, it is home games, but
I think 5 out of the next 7 they host. Valour. So they have more of the advantage in terms of the home field advantage, if you believe in that. Vancouver have a lot of away games too, so they're going to be in a really tough position. And Pacific are Pacific, so I'm not even going to look at their fixtures. So for Halifax is mostly about, can they make good on their home form, and can they get something out of away? Because that's been their biggest concern, is their form away from home has not been good this season.
What coming up? What's going to be huge for this playoff run-in is on the 5th of October. Halifax go to Vancouver, and then the week later, Vancouver go to Valour. So Vancouver have got 2 teams chasing them over a 7-day period. That's going to be huge.
And honestly, those 3 weeks, because on the 21st of September, Valour face Halifax as well. Those 3 weeks of late September, early October could be defining for who steals the last playoff spots, and we'll have our eyes peeled.
Yeah,
during
completely ignoring the top half. We won't care about it. There could be 4 teams tied for the title, but we're watching that.
Well, we're looking at the last playoff spot. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with Halifax. But if they can play like they played in this match, then yeah, they'll have a lot of confidence going into the final 7 matches. But that is it for our weekly roundup. Thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast. Make sure to follow us once again on all of our socials at Coast to Coast FC, so you can give us your thoughts on this week's and all previous week's episodes. If you have any interesting facts, stats, or questions, please let us know. We would love to hear from you. But until next time, my name is Felipe Vallejo.
And I'm Mike Rice.
And this has been Coast to Coast FC, signing out.